Hey my peeps, Coots here. Print off your review sheet. Identify these people. 50, 60 things you need to know for this test. Alright, I got it right here. I'm going to start with number one. I'm going to say a little bit about it. This is kind of your ultimate study guide that's available online. Cool. Jimi Hendrix. What can you tell me about Hendrix? He's the greatest guitarist of all time. The instrumental genius of the late 60s, blew everybody away, and just has this reputation that seems to live on, probably helped by the fact that he died a young death. Same with Janis Joplin, a female blues singer, Port Arthur, Texas, died young, lives forever. The Grateful Dead from San Francisco, the first jam band. The Allman Brothers are next, followed by a slew of others. The Monterey Pop Festival, the first of the festivals held in Monterey, California. Woodstock Festival, 3-day festival held in New York. A lot of the same bands played Woodstock. Probably Woodstock gets the lion's share of attention as the greatest festival of all time. Altamont was the festival that the Rolling Stones threw, and it was violent, and it signaled an end to the 60s as the hippies all scampered their own ways, and they became the me generation. Let's see, Motown superstars of the 70s, Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. Motown is basically moves to LA in the 70s, and excuse me, and a lot of the stars disappear. The Funk Brothers disappear, their sound changes. Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder become the big superstars of Motown in the early 70s, followed by the Jackson 5 and some others. The Supremes, greatest female group almost of all time. 12 #1 hits in the 60s, the biggest female group of Motown. The grooming of Motown artists. Poor kids to stylish models of elegance. Like I said, the Supremes were from the projects, and they had a dance instructor and a lady who taught them how to move and act gracefully, and of course how to dress. And the costumes were all bought for them and supplied because they wanted no offensive, nothing offensive whatsoever. So there would be no problem with. Excuse me, with Motown. The Funk Brothers backup band. It's the Motown backup band. The same group of musicians played on almost all the Motown music for 10 years. That's amazing. The Swampers. It's the backup band for Muscle Shoals. In the Leonard Skinner song, Muscle Shoals has the Swampers. Booker T and the MGs, the backup band for Stax. Right? 3 questions right there of backup bands. Funk Brothers, Motown, the Swampers, Muscle Shoals, Booker T and the MGs, Stax. HDH. What is HDH? The principal songwriting team for Motown. Holland Dozier Holland, we shorted to HDH. Berry Gordy, the owner and starter of Motown. Got to know that. The Motown biz philosophy, that is, let's create crossover records. Easy. If it crosses over to the white market, we'll make $1 million. It did, and they were. Where is Motown located? Detroit. Easy, easy, easy. Early history of Pink Floyd. Where are they from? What style did they start in? They were from London. They started at the UFO Club, and they started in this atonal, spacey thing going on. Almost no vocals sometimes, all instrumental. Jim Morrison, lead singer of The Doors, the Lizard King, started writing this poetry that was kind of based on the beat poets. Easy enough, right? Tim Leary was one of the, I call him one of the drug lords, was a Harvard psychologist, and did these tests on his graduate students with LSD, and started proclaiming the greatness of LSD in and around Boston, New York on the East Coast, and then took it out to the West Coast as well. Rolling Stone magazine gets its start in San Francisco, becomes the voice of the rock and roll movement. Development of FM radio, Tom Donahue. Tom Donahue starts the station in San Francisco, freeform FM, long album cuts. We get the FM that we know today, or that we knew a couple years ago. It's almost gone. Haight-Ashbury district, a district of San Francisco where the hippie movement took hold and became popular. The competition between the Beatles and the Beach Boys. They're both Capitol record record mates, and they have this writing. There's Pet Sounds and there's Sgt. Pepper's, and then Brian Wilson goes insane, and the Beach Boys kind of stifle. The Beatles continue their competition being with themselves, not really with the Beach Boys. The definition of counterculture. It's a generation of kids who want to change the world, and music is at the center of that. What two drugs most popular in the late 60s? It's pot and LSD. James Brown and his achievements. First live album, financed it himself. Really changes soul music into funk music. It was concentrating more on rhythm than chord changes and melody. Was the Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, led the Black Pride movement. His bands are legendary for their precision and their playing. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. Queen of Soul, you got it. Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. The Stax writing team, Isaac Hayes, David Porter. Isaac Hayes, you know him from Chef on South Park, but he's the creative genius, one of them, or part of the team that's writing a whole lot of the Stax magic. Cream, the Cream is the group from London, the first super group, and they'll go on to 3 or 4 albums, and Eric Clapton, la-di-da-di-da. All of a sudden the supergroup becomes the thing to put together. We see still to this day that going on. Yardbirds, famous guitar alumni, a band that has Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck. 2 guitarists, and Jimmy Page was playing bass. Beck went crazy, Page replaced him. But at one time, those 3 famous guys. Otis Redding, one of Stax's biggest star, a great soul singer, sings Dock of the Bay, dies in a plane crash, performs at Monterey, dies right before Dock of the Bay becomes the #1 hit. The relationship between Stax and Atlantic Records. That was simply this. Atlantic distributed Stax's records, right? We're the big company, you're the little company, give us your records, we'll get them all over the world for you. Easy enough. Santana and the Latin influence. So Santana gets the Cuban rhythm section, the congas, the bongos, the cowbells, the timbales, and puts it in a rock setting. Top 40 radio format. What's that all about? By the end of the 50s and 60s, the radio stations take the top 40 songs off the Billboard charts and play them continuously. We're going to play it, play it, play it, play it, play it. The Band. There's a band out there that's called The Band, and they were Bob Dylan's backup band. They go on to this country folksy roots rock kind of style. Also did The Last Waltz. Martin Scorsese produced it. They broke up in '76. The Last Waltz was their goodbye. The Kinks and the Who. What type of bands were they? Beatles or blues? It's in your notes. And they're basically neither. They're a little of both, and they're kind of both the precursors of the punk style. Dylan's main influence, I think covered this last test. Woody Guthrie, important. Dylan went electric at what festival? Newport Folk Festival. Dylan, electric, Newport. Got it? Who led the folk rock style? I think there's a question that deals with what style was created by the Byrds and Bob Dylan? The answer being folk rock. Folk rock, it's easy, right? We talked about that. The songwriters of the Stones. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. You saw them prominently featured in the video we watched. The Beatles and the infamous Jesus remark. What happened? Lennon makes a remark that the Beatles are bigger than Jesus, or could outdraw a church service, and all of a sudden let the record burning begin and the Beatles hating begin. What German town did the Beatles do their apprenticeship? Hamburg, Germany. What did the Beatles do after they gave up touring? Well, they went into the studio, they made more movies, they did the first satellite broadcast, All You Need Is Love. I think that's the 3 I can remember. Who were the good boys and the bad boys of rock in the middle 60s? The Beatles are the good boys, the Stones are the bad boys. Who's the Beatles manager? And who's the Beatles producer? Don't get these, study these, somehow remember them. Manager is Epstein. M.E. Manager Epstein. Producer Martin. Producer Martin. George Martin is the producer. Epstein is the manager. What Beatles album is considered to be the first concept album? Know something about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band because it's regarded as the greatest album of all time. You need to know it. It's on the test. There it is. What show did the Beatles first appear in '64 that was a huge TV event? The show that everybody appeared on. Elvis did. Now the Beatles are on Ed Sullivan. The Ed Sullivan Show. The Beatles and Bob Dylan, how do they influence each other? Well, Dylan told the Beatles to write songs that mean something, which they did, and then Dylan went electric after seeing the Beatles. So they're both influencing each other pretty big ways. What was skiffle? The last thing on your sheet. What is skiffle? Skiffle was this English style of music that combined English folk with American rock and blues and country. We saw in the video, I showed you a video of Jimmy Page playing in a skiffle band. He's the guitarist of Led Zeppelin. He ends up from a skiffle band as a kid to a session player to forming Led Zeppelin. That's it. Your review sheets. Get them. Take some practice tests that I put on there as well. Cool? You got it? Blah.